fix the schedule and don't work outside of that schedule.
I think it's important that people realize that they can be very productive with the hours that they have and the moments or hours of high focus clarity that they have, even if they're not sleeping great, even if they're raising small children.
Keep working on the stuff you do best and get better at it. Tomorrow doesn't matter. But if you're doing this most days for the next 4 months, like that's going to matter. Try not to be dependent on any particular day being critical to what you do. I don't want the high stress situation. That's the long game. It's not about hustling today. It's about I came back to deep work day after day after day when other people got distracted by TikTok.
Are you a list maker? Like, do you wake up in the morning and make lists and cross things off and then decide what are the key items on that list?
No, I'm a time blocker.
Time blocker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not a big believer in to-do list. I like to grapple with the actual available time. Like, okay, I have a meeting here. I have to pick my kids up from school here. Here's the actual hours of the day that are free and where they fall. All right, what do I want to do with that time? Well, okay, now that I see that there's a lot of gaps in the middle of the day here, they're short, maybe there I'm going to do a lot of small, non-cognitively demanding thing. Oh, this first 90 minutes in the morning is the main time I have uninterrupted. Okay, so this I'm going to work on writing. So I've been a big believer of this since I was an undergrad. You give your time a job as opposed to having a list, which is somewhat orthogonal to what's actually happening in your day. And then just as you go through your day saying, what do I want to try to do next? Which I think is a lot less efficient.
I'm going to try your method. I try and structure my days as much as I can, but it just never quite works. Do you work late into the night or no?
No, I'm a 5:30 man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 5:30 p.m., that's it.
Yeah, more or less, that's my cutoff. Now, the one exception is if I'm writing on deadline, I'll sometimes, if I need to get more writing done, I can do an evening writing session, which I got used to through long experience of. I used to write my blog post at night after my kids went to bed. Now they're older and they don't go to bed as early. So it's the one thing I have left that I'll do after 5:30 is every once in a while I'll do a 90-minute evening writing block. But I call this, by the way, this whole philosophy, I call fixed schedule productivity. I've been doing it since I was a grad student. Fix the work hour schedule. That's my commitment. I work in these hours. And then work downstream from that for everything else. So this controls even what you decide to bring into your life because I can't go past the schedule. And it drives you to be more innovative in how you deal with your time and schedule. You have to be efficient because you only have these hours here. That's been, a signal for my life since I was in my early 20s. Fix the schedule and don't work outside of that schedule. Now it's your move to figure out anything you want to do, you have to make that work. You want to become a professor, figure out how to make that work. You want to write books while you're being a professor, figure out how to make that work. You don't have the option of just throwing hours at it. And you innovate a lot, I think, when you have the constraints.
Where do sleep and exercise fit into your schedule? What's your typical to bed time, wake up time? What's your typical exercise routine? And the reason I ask about this is because I think nowadays hopefully people understand that exercise and cognitive function are inextricably linked.
Yeah.
And we're all going to live longer lives and be sharper mentally by doing exercise.
Yeah. So, my main actual working with weights, I do this pre-dinner, right? And this was an innovation in the last couple of years. It's fantastic psychologically for me. This is a transition from work to family time after work. So I'll do 45, 50 minutes, garage gym, that we built during COVID. After I'm done working before dinner. And once you get used to that, it also forces you I got to finish work because I got to get this in before dinner. But then I'll do also quite a bit of walking if it's not a teaching day, so I'm not on campus. I do a lot of thinking on foot, walking my kids to the bus stop, which isn't particularly close and back. So I'll do a lot of walking. But that's when my serious exercise now is always pre-dinner. Then I want to be up, in our room by 10. Yeah. And then at that point, I don't track. So I have insomnia issues. Which actually has been a key driver of a lot of the things I think about, especially with slow productivity, is I'm very wary because I can, without any control on my own, just find myself unable to sleep sometimes.
Fall asleep or stay asleep?
Fall asleep. Yeah. I used to get it really bad. Not so bad now, but it comes and goes. That really affected the way I thought about productivity. Because it seemed like to me, the definition of just I get after it with a bunch of stuff wasn't really on the table, because if my notion of productivity depended on me every day being able to just hammer on a bunch of stuff, I'm very busy, I have lots of commitments, what would happen if I couldn't sleep? I wouldn't be able to do that. So I drifted naturally towards a definition of productivity, which was, it doesn't really matter if you work tomorrow, but it is important that like this month you work, like writing a book. It doesn't matter if you work on your book chapter tomorrow in particular, but like this month you have to spend a lot of time working on it. So it was like an insomnia compatible definition of productivity, which sort of morphed into this idea of slow productivity, taking your time with it. So it's interesting. So like sleep issues really shaped the way I thought about work and put me on these much longer time scales of productivity. Try not to be dependent on any particular day being critical to what you do. I don't want the high stress situation. I don't want the I'm just going to 10 hours a day for the next 10 days. We're going to make this deal happen. Like I can't operate in that space because I worry about it anytime my brain could betray me and I could lose sleep for a couple days.
I think it's really important that you're sharing this because while people's challenges differ, I think oftentimes people hear the content of my podcast or other podcasts and think, oh, gosh, I have to have everything dialed in just right. When in fact, most all of the tools and protocols that have been discussed on the Huberman Lab podcast are in response to a particular challenge that I've had, or that others close to me have had. But I think it's important that people realize that they can be very productive with the hours that they have and the moments or hours of high focus clarity that they have, even if they're not sleeping great, even if they're raising small children, because that's the real world. And certainly that's the real world of deadlines and academia, but family and colds and flus and travel and jet lag and arguments and all the happy stuff too, vacations. So sounds like you're very good at adapting your day to what's going on around it, but that you have certain sort of committed time. Am I correct in assuming that you have at least one period of, say, 60 to 90 minutes of real, what you would call deep work, let's say at least 5 days a week? I know that might be an underestimate, but it seems like that's what I'm extracting from this.
That's the goal, right? So to me, depending on the season, is how extreme that can get. So the busiest season would be like a teaching semester, right? But even then, I'm going to make sure that 5 days a week I'm starting with deep work. And the non-teaching days I'll have more than the teaching days. Compare that to the summer, for example, where all I do for the most part is deep work. No meetings on Mondays and Fridays. All admin stuff is midday to early afternoon, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Everything else is deep work, just locked in hours at a time. But I want, if I'm not getting 5 days of starting the day with deep work, I'm unhappy, right? Because I keep coming back to this is, okay, because I'm not going to be able to, fortunately the insomnia it hasn't bothered me in years, but the threat of it completely shaped the way I think about things. And because I know I'm never going to be, have sort of like an Elon Musk style energy of I can just take on 7 companies and make it happen, right? I just don't have that ability. I've always focused on the long game. And to me, the long game plays out with get your deep work time in. Just keep working on the stuff you do best and get better at it. Tomorrow doesn't matter. But if you're doing this most days for the next 4 months, that's going to matter, And so I often think about productivity in my own life at the scale of decades. What do I want to do in my 20s? Okay, what do I want to do in my 30s? What do I want to do in my 40s? And that helps. In my 30s, I had a lot of young kids. The amount of time I could spend total working is much less, right? But I could still think about what do I want to do in my 30s? How do I make that happen? Let me make sure I'm pushing on those things. Then everything else I can adapt to, I can give here and there. It allows you to be very adaptable when you're thinking about what do I want to do, for the next 10 years. It also means you're not on a random Tuesday chiding yourself because why didn't I get 3 more hours of work in? That becomes sort of a nonsensical question. And what you care about is what happens in the next decade, that's the long game. It's not about, hustling today. It's about, I came back to deep work day after day after day when other people got distracted by TikTok, I gotta, whatever. It's that coming back to what matters again and again.